Okay, everyone, thanks for coming out. I think it's fair to say that the city of Harrisburg is currently preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. And we got some very good news here just within the last half hour or so. And the current hydrographics predict the crest of the Susquehanna River to only be 18.3 feet. That has been revised down from 19.1 earlier in the day. But we know that predictions can change, so we are anticipating at this time and preparing for what we would characterize as minor flooding. That is going to include the closure of City Island tomorrow. We are relocating all the parkers, and please don't come to City Island tomorrow. We are anticipating that the parking lot will take on water and will require a cleanup. Also, with the help of the fire department, we have circulated flyers to Harrisburg residents in various neighborhoods, especially in Shipoke and in the 3200 block of Green Street, where we're anticipating basements flooding and things like that. And we've given some tips. Most of the homeowners know what to do. Shut your power off if it gets near electrical boxes. Stay away. Make sure your drains are clear. These sorts of things. And at this stage, we have also worked with city staff, and we are prepared to constitute our emergency operations center at the city, as well as to declare things a disaster if and when we were to get to that point, which would mobilize a whole nother level of things. But at this point, I think it's fair to say minor flooding, and we're making preparations, the least of which are the closure of City Island tomorrow. But let me introduce our fire chief and our primary spokesperson on this matter, Mr. Chief Brian Etzerlein.
All right, thanks, Mayor. So the mayor is correct. We've been watching the hydrographs over the last several days. It has been a real ride for us watching and preparing. We set our sights once we had that 19.9 that was released this morning about 3:30. We set our sights, and all of our preparations from that point forward became a 20-foot crest. So everything that you see the city doing, from the police side of things in their preparations, Public Works, and the Fire Bureau, we are anticipating still a 20-foot crest. We want to be prepared for that. We can't go back if we're wrong. So everything we're doing is in preparation for that. Public Works has been working diligently clearing the island. We had them over here earlier today clearing the island, some other low-lying areas. Working obviously with the Harrisburg Senators, affecting the games over the next several days. They had equipment and things that they had to move, and making sure that the public is informed and kept abreast of all the developing issues that we've been dealing with, and that included last night the Fire Bureau going out and delivering information to door-to-door residents on Green Street in Uptown, as well as the entire Shipoke neighborhood. Those are all preparations that are necessary and required so that we can weather this storm together. And we know that the city is prepared from an emergency standpoint. We have, again, Public Works is prepared for the cleanup already. We're already focusing and looking to what the cleanup's going to require. Short term, our emergency personnel have checked all of our boats, so our entire boat fleet and personnel fleet is ready to go in the event that we do have to start rescuing folks if things go higher than anticipated at that 20-foot crest. A couple other things that we've been doing involve, obviously the education of the public, putting that information out. We are also, as the mayor said, closing City Island. That was a decision that we had to make this morning, as well as events in Riverfront Park and obviously here on the island, just for the safety of our residents and any potential visitors coming in. And that was a difficult decision to make, but with that 20-foot crest, we had to ensure that we were focusing on that and ensuring that the public will be safe, going forward here. So Harrisburg Fire, Harrisburg Public Works, Harrisburg Police, and the City of Harrisburg is ready and able to assist residents in need as we go through this unknown time the next 2-3 days ahead of us. We will be working and have been updating Dauphin County with our progress through situational reports so that they know any unmet needs that we have. And we're happy to say at this point in time, the city currently has no unmet needs. All of our resources are focused on the flood effort. And our thoughts and resources could be available for those that are being affected outside of the city once we see where our flooding ends up here in the next day or so. Because we know that there are a lot of unmet needs and a lot of issues outside the city here regionally due to the amount of rainfall that we saw locally.
Chief, are you at normal staffing levels?
We are currently at normal staffing levels. We do have a matrix that we will go to for additional staffing in the event that we do have flooding, and that will bring both police, fire, and public works folks in on an overtime status to deal with the disaster if that's required.
What's the city going to be doing to shore up the collapsed wall after the rains?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Talking about the collapsed wall. Well, the collapsed wall, if you're referring to the one above Howard Tire, that is not city property. That is private property. We'll monitor that situation, but in terms of shoring up the wall, that would be the responsibility of the property owner. Any other questions?
Yeah, Chief, again, people should stay away from the water. What's your recommendation?
I think one of the things that we see, the river, yeah, exactly. One of the things that are always uncertain with flowing water is what has that water underneath the surface done to the banks? And we're talking globally here, not just the Susquehanna River, but the small creeks and streams in not only Harrisburg, but the surrounding region. Understand that they're being undermined, and there's a potential, if you get too close, say even 10 feet away, that you could fall in because there's nothing underneath of you. And that's something we see a lot with banks of the river, creeks, and streams. And unfortunately, lives are taken every year for those that get too close.
Yeah, I would say stay away from the Susquehanna, stay at a safe distance, and recognize that as the depth increases, the velocity at the top of the river speeds up. And it's a very, very powerful force, and it can be admired, but only from a safe distance.
Mayor, obviously City Island's going to be closed.
Yep.
If folks come over here, could that be a potential trespassing?
We don't want anyone to come over on City Island. We also would encourage people just to give us time to clean up after this. Once the waters recede, especially along the Riverwalk and in the parks and on City Island, we're going to have to get our street sweepers out, our dump trucks out, our plows out to clean up the mud, and there's going to be some time spent in that. So it would be good if people could stay back. That's part of the message here. City Island will be closed tomorrow, and please stay off the island.
Right now, you're not planning to do any mandatory evacuations. What would change that, and help me understand what happens when these mandatory evacuations happen?
Sure. You can address that.
Sure. At this point, with the forecast, and again, our forecast and everything that we're doing right now is based on a 20-foot crest. There are no evacuations needed in the city of Harrisburg with a 20-foot crest of the Susquehanna River. However, if we were to get data in later today, tomorrow, from the Mid-Atlantic River Forecast Center that says that we're going to be at 23, 24 feet, then we're going to start to notify residents in those flood-prone areas that they will most likely be evacuated, and that's important, and that's why we're sticking with the 20-foot level, so we have all of our bases covered at the 20-foot. In the event something catastrophic happens, we have more rain in the basin than anticipated, we can then up that to be able to safely evacuate, and notify those residents.
When's the last time you had evacuations events?
The last time was 2011 with Hurricane Lee.
Do you have any gauge on what the damage is looking like right now as of the past
Well, from the Susquehanna River here, it's going to be what I would characterize as minor, but we're monitoring the situation, and things could change. They've already revised the forecast up significantly, and then they started revising it down, and we're going to, as I say, prepare for the worst but hope for the best.
Can you talk about the fact that just because you're not necessarily getting rain here in Harrisburg, how the tributaries and that sort of thing all come together to make the level of the river what it is?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the situation we're in right now, which is different from previous storms, is that really it's the weather north of here, north of Harrisburg, that is going to affect the flooding of the river. And since that's the case, people looking outside their windows, that's not really what is going to make a difference. We're also not anticipating at this time flooding of ancillary flooding that would be caused by massive amounts of rain at the same time. So that's different about this storm. You want to say anything?
Additionally, one of the things that we look at with the Mid-Atlantic River Forecast Center is the fact that the west branch of the Susquehanna River, as well as the Juniata, have not received the rainfall in their basins that were anticipated. So that has driven that down. What we have seen historically, speaking just for the city of Harrisburg, is those river basins, both those tributaries, significant tributaries, have to have significant water dumping into the main stem of the Susquehanna River that flows through Harrisburg. We are not seeing those numbers at this point, which has given us hope that we're going to be in pretty good shape, keeping with our 20-foot estimate.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we as I say, we circulated a sort of letter to everyone in areas that we think are prone to have some basement flooding. In Shipoke, in blocks of Green Street, where water can back up through the sewer system. Basic, simple advice: keep the storm drains clear. Most people have drains in their basement. You don't want things floating or covering them up and making it harder. Turning off the electrical outlets. Other common sense tips. And then the general tip to stay at a safe distance from the Susquehanna. Don't drive through floodwaters. Stay off City Island. And at this point, I think that's the proper level of precaution. I think most people that live in those areas don't store too many things in their basements. But if there are things down there, they should obviously move them out.